this is the end of an era, the end of a cycle. The last cycle was in 2019, lowest hanging fruit was like Riverfront and Tampines Treasure, both at sub 1,200 to 1,400 PSF tops. Okay, now, even EC is more expensive and already hitting 1,800 to 2,000 per square foot. Now, this is the reality, whether you like it or you don't. So today, we will be getting our last non-EC that will range between 2,000 to 2,200 PSF in the OCR. Why I say that this is the last of its kind in the old cycle? Now, the new cycle will test prices of between 2,600 to 3,000 PSF. And then RCR with the likes of Tanjung Ru and even Dover, 1,550 PSF PPR, more expensive than any of the River Valley properties, which means that likely we will see RCR starting from 3,000 PSF all the way to potentially 3,004 to 3,005. So the price of 2,000 to 2,200 PSF will likely be the price of subsidized condo EC prices in the next 1 to 2 years. Now, this development is not only convenient, it is beside an MRT and on top of shops, not a mall. Shops, I will talk about that in a bit on why I use the word shops and not mall. Anyway, it's a location where everyone might find it hard to accept except the Westies. So today, we go to Tengah Gardens Residences.
Disclaimer, whatever I share does not constitute financial advice. It is solely based on my opinion on what is right or wrong. So please do your own due diligence. If you're liking the content so far, please hit the like and subscribe button as your simple gesture will help a lot with the YouTube algorithm. If you are interested to find out more about property related matters, please find all the social media handles I am on, or you can just directly reach out to me on WhatsApp. Separately, I have also set up a Telegram group at the start of the year so that we can have a discussion that we as agents are not allowed to do so online, which is to talk shit. So if you are interested to get into a community that talks about everything under the sun about property, please scan the QR code, or for the boomers out there, I have pasted the link in my description. We're going to close the group invitation in probably a month or 2 times, so head over and I will see you there. Now back to the video.
So when I was looking at the list of launches for the first half of 2026, 2 developments caught my attention, and that is Pinery and Tengah Gardens Residences, the battle of the East and West. And because they are both very similar, sits on sizable plot of land on top of a mall and shops. Again, let me re-emphasize a bit. A mall sits below Pinery, okay? A bunch of shops sits below Tengah Gardens. Why? Because the commercial footprint is very low. 3,000 square meter versus Pinery's 12,000 square meters, because this is a pink plot on the URA master plan, so it's really residential with commercial at first story. So both are just beside MRT and both are in the OOCR region. But from a location point of view, they are worlds apart. Let's acknowledge that, okay? One is a brand new township that is in the infancy stage. You're buying into the future, and then the other one, you're buying into its history and records on its site. So when I had to make a choice between the two to decide which one stands ahead of all else, I have to lean on the side of history and what Tampines is to the locals to favor Pinery. But I can tell you, it is a very, very close call. And Pinery obviously did very well at this point of recording. It moved 92% and an average of 2,550 PSF, meaning it's a range of course like 2,350 to about like as high as 27, I think 2723 PSF, which means that yet again, there are people clearly FOMOing in the queue, getting sucked into the new launch euphoria, unable to probably detach their emotions from the head. Now, some pricing went so high that if you look closely, actually Parktown might seem better for certain unit type. Let me give you an example. Okay, the 1195 square feet, 1,227, 1,238 square feet, 4+ study at Pinery. Yes, there were units from like $2.85 million, but actually the average price was like between $3.1 to $3.2 million, 2,600 PSF there above. But guess what? There's a 4-bedroom premium unit at Parktown, 1,496 square feet, going for around 3.3x M2002 100 PSF. If the advantage for Pinery, as I mentioned in my video, versus Parktown was meant to be affordability, and you take that out of the equation, then doesn't the value shift to the Parktown unit? Now, given Parktown facilities and facade are way better, unit sizes are much bigger and more proven because you have part of developers being CapitaLand. That's where pricing comes into the picture. It changes perspective and it changes value when that happens. Think about it, such a premium 4-bedroom unit will not only attract HDB upgraders, you will almost certainly attract condo upgraders wanting to upgrade to a much larger unit type that has the convenience that Parktown gives you. So that's where the price advantage at 2,200 odd per square foot and the clearly better facilities and setup will give you an advantage in the resale market in time to come. Now, if the gap between the two is wide enough, then the Pinery will work. But in this case, not so much for most of them. So that's what we do at Pocket View, because we are mostly buying for investment. We are after value. We set very clear boundaries from the start. Do not cross this price range. You cross it only if you have intentions to live in it. Otherwise, there should always be a point where you say stop, enough is enough. And I'm the anchor. As great as the property attributes are, the location, the layout, the pricing must make sense, because pricing is the last form of stress test that decides your exit. Of course, what's 50 or 100 PSF, everyone can jolly well afford it, but the difference can set you back easily 100 to 200k above our strike range. Then if you have the balls to walk away from it, Tengah Gardens might give you the same outcome. Now, this is applicable be it for resale or even new launch, and it doesn't say anything about who is better. Is it resale or new launch? But for the purpose of this discussion, I will be comparing apple to apple, new launch to new launch, because for those of you who knows me long enough, you will know what my thoughts are on this new launch and resale debate. Because at certain price range, it's going to be resale without a doubt. Some other range, it will be landed. So, so on and so forth. So, back to it. Now that we are done with the ease, again, I would like to display myself. I'm evaluating it from a value perspective. Whether you want to stay or don't want to stay is an entirely different question altogether. Because this is a location I touched my heart. I hated it in the past. I still hate it now. I travel to that neighborhood every now and then because my army camp is located nearby. I can tell you the drive is insane. Even from someone living in the north area, it takes me like close to 40 minutes to get to there. Not only that, it was like jungle everywhere last time. So as I mentioned, I still hate it even to today. But that's where the savvy investors will know what to do. You get rid of your emotions when it comes to property purchase or investment. Now, what doesn't work for me might not mean it doesn't work for others too. I hate it or don't like it is inconsequential. So long as there's others who might like it eventually, that's enough. It's a bit like feng shui lah. My master actually disapproved of all my purchase so far, but he meant that if I were to live in it, it wouldn't be suitable for me. It doesn't mean that you won't make money. So just be clear on what you want out of it. And because it's all about perspective and not just your perspective. And Tengah is really what we call the Pongo 2.0, literally a brand new township that is set to get rowdier as more public housing is planned for the neighborhood. You know that old story like your father, mother, uncle, auntie always say,
"Aiya, that time I should have bought this, I should have bought that. It was only like 300 to 400 per square foot. That time I go in, nobody wants to buy."
Remember, hindsight is always 12 out of 12, 20 out of 20. But later in this video, I'll share with you why we don't need hindsight to know where this is heading towards. So stay till the end when I conclude it accordingly. Anyway, at this point of recording, I haven't caught sight of the floor plans. I will be reviewing Tengah Gardens through our QPE framework and the probability of what it might be. But before I start, just some context. The development is jointly developed by Hong Leong, Rocco Land and CSC Land. Now the land was acquired back in January 2025 for, listen carefully, 821 PSF PPL. Okay, 821 PSF, my friends. Okay, just to give you some, or rather another context as to how low this is. Senja Close EEC got sold at I think 771 PSF. Then the two ECs at Woodlands, pretty close to the MRT, is 782 and 794. Don't forget the Senja EC is not close to anything at all, okay? Isn't this price today at Tengah close to EC prices? Fine. Now, usually, lowest hanging fruits are not close to anything, but rather this this is going to be easy price, close to MRT, and on top of shops. Still not enough. Okay, developers buy cheap doesn't mean they need to sell cheap. Fine. Break even according to HPOP stands at 1,760 PSF. You add 8% for harmonized, we are at 1,900 PSF. Then you do the usual 10 to 20% profit margin, you should end up like 2,080 to maybe like 2,200 PSF. Now, I know your brain cannot comprehend 2,000 to 2,200 per square foot for an area like this, and it might sound insane just a few years back, but the recent Rivelle EC in Tampines has already touched 2,000 PSF. Even the 100 pumps that MOP recently also hit 2,000 PSF in the resale market already. So, for future pricing, the OCR plots in Bedok Rise, Lentor Gardens, Vela Bay, Awakang will likely sell between 2,600 to 3,000 per square foot. Anything closer to the low 2,000 to like say 2,200 PSF will likely, almost certainly be an EC average pricing in the next 1-2 years. Okay, now that you understand the context, let's analyze it given our limited resources with our QPE framework. Now, first circle, quality. Point number 1, land size, facilities, and facade. 9 blocks comprising of 863 units sitting on a pretty large land size of like, I think 270,000 square feet. Now, so anything above 200,000 square feet is usually very popular in the resale market. Why? Simple. Because the land is big enough for developers to do you something good. And most of the developments in this size range tend to give you very, very good vibes. Now, the residential component starts from level 2 with the commercial shops taking the entire level 1. There'll be a side gate that leads us to the MRT, Hongkar MRT, which is part of the Jurong regional line. Full condo facilities. No like pool though, weird for a large land size, but not the deal breaker, because usually one area would be like for the kids, the other would be for like serious swimmer like myself doing laps. Over here don't have them. All of them here are like quite fun pools. Then all the function rooms are like taken away from ground level and placed on top of different roof terraces that overlooks the entire neighborhood and the beautiful lake view. Now, sky terraces here and there, so actually whatever you need a condo, you will get it here. Tennis court, of course, at one end with a multi-purpose court somewhere in the middle. So from the side plan or artist impression, you can see the man-made lake wraps around the development itself, a bit like those at Sengkang Fernville. You know, like riverbank, river trees, and the recently MOP River Cove, which has anyway already transacted 1,800 PSF already, and you at 2,000 to 2,100 PSF, again, price, of course, you are on top of shops and beside MRT. So for point number 1, really once you hit a certain land size, the facilities and facade landscaping doesn't tend to disappoint. You leave that to the hands of a reputable developer or developers like Hong Leong and Guoco Land, then what can really go wrong, right? So point number 2, layout and pricing. Again, at this point of recording, I have nothing. So I'll most probably leave it to another episode entirely to cover the floor plans once I get them, but bearing in mind this is a very mass market neighborhood, I don't expect developers to give you very luxurious space, so don't expect that. And for layouts and pricing, I usually pack myself against other projects to stress test, but this one really nothing here at the moment except a bunch of ECs and possibly only like Le Quest, which is like 10 years old on paper, 6 years old from an age perspective, that has already hit like close to 1,700 PSF pre-harmonized, not near MRT and just on top of a small little mall. Because you add 8% to harmonization, which means that the Quest is already like 1,836 PSF. And if this is 2,000 to 2,200 PSF for something that is new just beside MRT, do we really still need to compare? Now, talking about all the EC, I guarantee you a lot of people will have the objection of,
hey, the EC here so much cheaper, buy Tengah for what?
Okay, let's look at that. Copen Grand sold their last few bounce out units at about like 1,600 to 1,700 PSF. And then if I can recall, they are not harmonized, okay? Which means that the EC actually sold for like 1,760 PSF to about 1,870. It's not even near MRT. Is it way cheaper? No lah, we are private and we are potentially marginally only higher. Come on lah, bro. As for layouts, I know there are 1-bedrooms for offering, which I don't really care. I also know some people have been saying that in recent times where developers are no longer building 1-bedrooms, and if there's a new launch that sells 1-bedrooms, you might get a commodity on hand. Something very rare, but come on, like guys, nobody cares about 1-bedrooms. Even developers scared to sell, that's why they don't sell. You still want to buy then okay lah, earn a bit of money and collect rental, better than taking a back seat and do nothing lah, okay? Or just invest in US equities lah. I mean, okay, the following one is strictly my guess of what the size could be before I get exact information. 2 bedrooms, let me see, should have like maybe 2 bed, 1 bath, 560 square feet, 2,000 to 2,200 PSF should be about 1.12 to 1.235. 2 bed, 2 bath, 603 maybe, 1.2 to 3.2 million dollars. Because this kind of quantum, I mean, today's market, where can you find a 2 bedroom? Or actually, you can also go for like a 3 bedroom OCL, like what I shared in my previous video, like Asperis, MRT doorstep potentially, can rent it out for like 4,200 easily. In this instance, I will of course touch a resale. Then 2 plus study should be around 689 square feet, 1.378 to maybe like 1.5 million dollars. 3 bedroom compact should be 800 square feet. I'm guessing like 1.6 to 1.76 million dollars. Premium 3 bedroom, 1.8 to 2 million dollars. 3 plus study, if there is a 3 plus study, is like maybe 2 to 2.2 million dollars. 4 compact, let's see if they can fit in 1,100 square feet. Should be like 2.25 to 2.45. Then I hear said the largest would be the 4 bedroom, which is like 1,238 square feet. That should be like maybe 2.5 plus to like 2.7, 2.8. All this don't look expensive, my friend. But it really is better when I do a separate episode on this, when we get the actual floor plans and sizes to give us a better view of what really is going to be. And instead, I'll be focusing more on the exit strategy, which I thought can be quite important. Third point, location, MRT and amenities. We are right beside an MRT, okay, on top of an entire level of shops or community plaza, literally a brand new estate where even Google Earth and Maps hasn't updated anything yet. This is how new this is. And I guess that's the gist of it. When an estate is coming up, people will say that there's no transaction volume or history to take reference from. Then, if it's already mature, people also say that, oh, how nice would it have been if we like pick it up right from the start, right? But actually, from a neutral point of view, buying at the infancy stage is literally first movers advantage. However, not all first movers advantage is foolproof, okay? The next gauge would be demand. If there's no demand, first movers or last movers doesn't make a difference. And don't forget, one stop upwards is Tengah MRT, and that's a blue site. That one will have a much larger footprint for its commercial component with a plot ratio of like 3.2, which means that the land is going to be much more valuable, which also means that it will be more expensive. So do you think the land bid will easily be like 1,000 to 1,100 PSF conservatively? That is easily going to be like 30-40% higher than us at Tengah Gardens. And I guess if you manage to snag a unit here in the coming weeks, you will be eagerly waiting for the land to be launched in time to come. Point number 4, views. This will get pretty nice view of the man-made lakes, and of course, the best views will be reserved for the larger units. And then the pool-facing internal units as usual. And I think some of the not-so-good facing will be like overlooking the hospital and MRT track on the northern and eastern side respectively. Do take note that Block 1127 has a side view of the river and the internal facing. So all in all, for first circle or quality, this is a very reputable developer or developers at work. And given the land size is big enough, on top of shops, beside that is an MRT, and with a man-made lake similar to that of Wood Lake, these are all key ingredients of a very sought-after project, even without accounting price and layout, which I will cover in our next video, which can still also make or break it. But so far, we are looking quite good. Now, second circle of the QPE framework is exit strategy. Point number 1, supply demand. Given we are in a brand new township with 80% of housing in Tengah being made out of HDBs with rest mostly like ECs that hasn't even TOP, then we also have like Le Quest and Tengah being the only normal private around. Guess which development is the most convenient? None of them is beside MRT anymore. That is a fact. But again, that means nothing if the price has been factored in, and based on evidence so far, our gap with the subsidized housing is very, very narrow, unlike Pinery and Rivelle, which again is a fact. But not much of a concern. Actually, I want to sidetrack a bit. I want to deviate slightly, because the discussion for the past month, it seems to be centered around Rivelle and Pinery, rightfully so, and that Pinery should watch out for Rivelle. I thought of clarifying this hot topic, okay? For a start, I'm on the camp of Rivelle being the better option if you can qualify for one, okay? Let's make it clear. But above all else, they are not equal because the choice is never on the consumer's side. It's not as if someone who earns $20,000 will have the luxury of picking. So they are still very, very different, at least from an entry point of view, because it's not a choice. Because if it's a choice, then Rivelle is the clearest option. However, the market seems keen only to pick one winner out of the two. Like, as if only one will flourish. Why is it only one will do better? Why can't the both of them flourish, right? A bit like Park Colonial and Woodlake, 1 year apart, but one was launched in like 1,600 to 1,700 PSF range, while the other one was close to 2,000 PSF or even higher. One is right opposite, while the other is on top of a more integrated development. In the end, both also make respectable gains. You can say Park Colonial made a little bit more, but it doesn't make Woodlake residences any less attractive, as you still have people who like want the convenience at doorstep even if it's just like across the street. So why need to pick between the two? Both will do well if the price point is right now. Correct? Anyway, I digress a bit. What was I talking about? Yes, supply, demand, as it stands, I don't see any issues whatsoever. So point number 2, transformation. This is a whole new township, literally an entire estate. Now, when people float the subject about first movers advantage, this is it long. And the thing about first mover advantage should be that you get into it early and at a cheaper price, okay? Given this is almost an easy price, bro, we are at the start and the most convenient. Not far away is also, of course, the Lake District, which in itself is already an area going through transformation, except the area transformed them long already, still forever transforming. Point number 3, schools. Unfortunately, we should fall outside of the 1 km radius of ACS, but within 1 km, we have Kranji and I think it's Pioneer Primary School. So as I mentioned, this kind of area is a brand new area. Don't have ACS set, but at least got a couple of primary schools. Point number 4, target audience, HDB upgraders. What else? Because almost 80% of the residentials here are newly built BTOs, which means that every single flat there got it cheap, and upgrading for them will be a relatively piece of cake. So given this is what I feel will still be the support of the private property market in time to come, it is the perfect target audiences. So all in all, for second circle of exit strategy, Tengah Gardens residences should see quite a healthy take-up rate from upgraders residing in the west. Supply-demand issues are also not going to be a problem. There is a lack of condos in an area dominated mostly by HDBs and ECs, whose pricing isn't too far away from us. So in conclusion, for those of you looking out for value and have probably missed out the likes of like Pinery at a certain price range, this represents an opportunity for you. Of course, except this location is nothing like Tampines. The upcoming potential, however, might be a different thing altogether, because the shift is happening soon in what used to be an estate that nobody wants to be in, including myself, or even heard of, will slowly prosper to something similar to the likes of Punggol. Except if it's like 50-70% of what Punggol is, I think it's exciting times ahead. Again, your only challenge will be that there's going to be plenty of ECs that might compete with your pool of buyers in the future. Novo Place, Auto Place, Copen Grand, Altura Grand, and I think Lumina Grand. Not too sure whether I missed out anything or not. None of them is built exactly like Tengah Gardens, okay? MRT, small little more, a nice view which other parts of Tengah are flush mostly with like concrete jungles. Yes, I know that even though it might be for value buy, you just can't bring yourself to go to such a location, it's absolutely fine. The game plan for property investment should be an emotionless decision, but I know some of you might still want to put a bit of preferences into the picture. It is just fine. Do whatever that works for you, okay? If what you're after for is something that has limited downside risk, then Tengah Gardens is one that you should really pay attention to, even if you have zero plans to live in it, okay? This is really almost an easy price without all the requirements, all the family nucleus, and even MSR, okay? And you know what's one other fact, okay? This will be the 2026 cheapest launch by quite some bit. And when you start to really look at what's to come, even for the outskirts, you will not find another developments that will be priced in this manner for quite a while. This might actually just be the last. Good plot of land, reputable developer, close to MRT on top of a commercial component, further supplemented by a man-made lake to complete the entire livability factor. this is as good as it gets, okay? However, pricing will still determine everything. Pinery is an amazing development, but even if something is good, there should always be a point of time before it becomes too expensive at that very point of time. And in our case, anything above 2,500 PSF or even let's say 2,600, it's really a case of buying for own use. Okay? Because if there's no element of own use in it and you pay this kind of price for investment, of course next 2-3 years it might still look cheap, but actually I really want to get into your minds to understand why would you even pay like 2,600 PSF for investment, pure investment. Because at this price range, imagine you buy a 3+ study 1055 square feet and pay like 2,600 PSF, you're likely gonna get a large 4-bedroom at about same price at Tengah, at like maybe 2,001 to 2,200 PSF for lake facing. Even if I admit that the location of Tampines once again is proven and Tengah has nothing, it still has the potential, and of course Tampines still has the history and records. Again, this is just talking about projects at a certain price range. You are better off buying a certain resale property. In fact, some 3-bedroom new launch these days, I can buy you a 4-bedroom OCL. So that's a different topic for another day, okay? So for Tengah residences, for those of you who have missed Pinery and you got no emotions, yes, location might be hard to swallow, but always remember that it's about positioning in a buyer's perspective. Then actually this is, or rather can be a good alternative. Always remember, price will decide everything, and until the layouts are out, we still reserve judgment, but riding on developers' reputation so far, I think layout should be good and price should be the last indicator.